Hey there, I'm Kardino, and today I'm going to be looking at one of the most popular series in video game history, including the elusive third game you probably didn't even know existed. Get out your Wiimotes because today we are about to play some sports. I'm so sorry. So first off, let's begin with...
Wait a second. Did I hear someone talking about Wii Sports?
Oh, hi Kool-Aid. Yeah, I was actually just about to do a video. Care to join me?
Sure, let's do this.
Wii Sports, one of the most memed games Nintendo has ever spat out. Believe it or not though, it isn't quite as bad as people seem to remember. To start off, let's look at the game that started it all, Wii Sports. It was released in 2005 and came bundled with almost every Wii system, which pretty much made it an instant killer app. It's kind of funny how people look at it now as a glorified meme, but for the time, this was a really simple and fun game that anyone could pick up and play.
Yeah, when we say anyone, we literally mean anyone. Wii Sports brought the casual audience into the fold, from soccer moms to grandpas. And let's face it, your dad was better at bowling than you ever were. So, without further ado, let's take a look at all that was included in this game. We will start this serve with tennis, which was arguably the most played game out of the 5 sports. It was easy to play, the motion controls felt very intuitive and was paced in a quick manner. Not to mention, you may actually break a sweat with tennis. Now with most of the sports, there really isn't much depth to them, but with tennis though, there was some progression that made practicing worthwhile, as you had to adapt to playing doubles and controlling both characters at once. You had to master the different types of serves, as aces would be useful in the higher ranks. Of course, you could also just use a strategy to swing your remote nonsensically, but that usually only worked with human players, especially younger siblings.
Next runner-up is baseball, which I feel is the least remembered one for some reason. It's basically your standard game, but with only 3 innings instead of 9. I get that they wanted to appeal to families, but I do wish they had an option to change this. I remember spending so many hours practicing so I could win against my brother, and somehow I always lost. The best part is that since the controls are so simple, the motion control almost never fails with this one. One thing I would like to point out though is how low res the audience is. It's literally a field of different colored dots. That still doesn't keep us from laughing when we hit a foul ball into the stands though. Speaking of which, there are different types of throws too, so you could always play mind games with the batter.
Now it's time to strike it up with Wii Sports Bowling, which I never really saw as a sport, but I guess Nintendo saw otherwise?
You mean you didn't see smashing a remote through your TV as a sport?
That's a good point, Kardino. Wow, there is more depth to Wii Sports Bowling than I thought.
It's all in the wrist strap, Kool-Aid. It's all in the wrist strap.
Yes, and no one loved those beloved wrist straps more than those TV manufacturers. But let's go back to bowling, shall we? This sport was also one of the more favorable ones, as you can play with multiple people while only needing one Wiimote. Like tennis though, there is a bit of a learning curve to it in terms of angling your shots and getting some precision to your throws. This was honestly a brilliant addition to the game, as originally it stood out from the pack for being a party game more so than a sport, but really had a lasting impact for those who continued to play Wii Sports. The only problem with Wii Sports Bowling is that it gave you an enormous amount of self-confidence that would inevitably be shattered when you try and bowl in real life. I was also disappointed to find that throwing a ball behind you would garner a different reaction from the crowd from Wii Sports. Like getting kicked out of the...
It's really funny how the internet loves to make fun of the entire game, but in my opinion, golf was the only one to not land in the green. As you would expect, you swing your Wiimote like a golf club to try to get the ball to the end of the course. The problem with this is that the motion controls really only work when detecting direction, not momentum. You would undershoot your target, or massively overshoot it. I mean, sure you could practice it, but really a lot of it came down to how generous your remote was feeling that day. Also, I am a bit sad about the lack of themes for the different courses. It's pretty much all wooded terrain, with little to no way to differentiate the different courses until you get into the advanced mode. Even then, all it is woods and lakes. It's especially surprising coming from Nintendo, who is known to mix things up. Of course they would remake the sport in a future title, but more on that later.
Wow, it looks like I'm getting all the good sports. I bet Kardino is jealous. Remember how I mentioned earlier how tennis is the only sport where you break a sweat? Well, with Wii Sports Boxing you would be dripping sweat and would most likely be soiling a towel. This sport required use of the nunchuck as each side would control a glove. This of course would lead to some clunkiness in terms of the controls and comfort of it, as your curves may not register as curves and your jabs may register as curves. It feels like to be successful at this game you have to fling your arms around like Springman. I feel boxing was a sport that would never be touched after the first few tries. Having precise motion controls would make all the difference.
Alright, so that's all the sports included in the game. But don't forget, there is more to Wii Sports than just free play. There's also the training and fitness modes. Come to think of it, did anyone actually use them? Training mode is actually pretty fun. It's basically a collection of mini-games which are built to improve your game, pun intended. These range from hitting as many home runs as you can in baseball to dodging as a boxing trainer throws balls at you. Man, I hate when that happens. If you're good enough at a certain exercise, you may even get a medal, which is something I definitely put on my resume. If you want to get serious though, you can also go to the fitness mode. You play 3 random mini games from the training mode and the game spits back a random number at you. The better you are, the lower the number. So apparently I'm about 50 years old, which sounds pretty good to me. Maybe people will start to take me more seriously now.
Anyway, Wii Sports was obviously a huge success, which meant that Nintendo's next obvious step was to make a bigger and better version. And they did just that. Wii Sports Resort is the second game in the series and focuses a lot more on, well, resort-themed sports. The main gimmick of this game is the new accessory for the Wiimote, Wii Motion Plus. You see, the original remotes had this problem where they didn't always do what you wanted. This isn't too noticeable in the cases where you just need to waggle, but for games that needed more precise movements, it was a problem. To avoid the inevitable lawsuits, Nintendo made an updated remote called Wii Remote Plus, and also sold attachments for the original remotes. Once again, Resort was Nintendo's way of showing off all the new capabilities. It's like they were saying, hey, remember when you bought the Wii thinking it would work as advertised? Well, now you can get an accessory to make it do just that. Sorry mom, but you have to stand in order to play tennis this time.
Now before we hop into the game, we'll have to take the tutorial on how to connect our new accessories to a remote. And in my opinion, these are just about the most patronizing videos I think I've ever seen. It's speaking to us grown-ass men like we're these 3-year-olds that have never seen a video game before.
Insert the Wii Remote controller into the jacket so that the tip fits snugly. Push the wrist strap through the hole in the bottom of the jacket. Use your fingers to grip both sides of the cover and remove it. Now insert the nunchuck connector plug. Now you're ready to use your controller.
Anyway, it seems we're ready to go now, so let's see what this game has to offer. Returning from the first game are golf, bowling, and tennis, although they label it as table tennis. It's technically the same game, but with a more zoomed in view. But as Kool-Aid was saying, the first new sport in this pack is sword fighting. Let's start this game up and try our luck. Yeah, even with the Wii Motion Plus accessory, this thing still doesn't work very often. It feels like a complete crapshoot whether or not you'll hit your target, and most of the time the strategy is just to shake your Wii Remote in an unpredictable pattern.
That was too quick! That's why they call me the Reginator.
I do appreciate the extra modes here though. Speed slicing is a fun distraction, but the gauntlets take it to the next level. It's this fun side mode where you run around the island taking down hordes of Miis. The goal is to take out the leader of the pack as quickly as possible without losing all 3 of your hearts. Now, while many of the beginning levels can be cleared by some good old-fashioned waggling, if you try to beat the later levels with this tactic, you'll get your ass handed to you, let me tell you. Next up is Frisbee, and yeah, that's definitely Frisbee. Aside from the occasional hiccup in motion controls, there really isn't much to say about this one. There's also Frisbee Golf, and yeah, that's certainly golf with a Frisbee. If you've ever seen a Frisbee, you'll know what to expect here. We also have Wakeboarding here, although I'm not really sure how many people really remembered this one. You try to get the most points by performing tricks. Now, as much as I joke about motion controls, I gotta admit that the concept of this game isn't bad. You'll be shaking the Wii Remote with your Mii in midair, and then have to make sure it's parallel to the waterline again by the time you land. The bigger your streak, the more points you'll earn. Now, I don't know if this is just the motion controls or my own incompetence, but I actually find this game kinda challenging, and there's a decent amount of replay value in trying to beat your highest score. There's also Archery here, and I'll tell you now, this is probably the game I spent the most time with. The motion controls are pretty good, and there's even some secret targets you'll probably never hit. Power cruising is actually one of those sports I never really got into, despite Reggie being really excited about it. It's not that the game is garbage, it just never really clicked with me. The same went for canoeing, which I might as well just rope in with this sport. They control okay if the remote is feeling nice, and they can be over in less than 2 minutes. But again, I never really found these games that exciting. I will say though that the canoeing is fairly difficult, especially as it progressively gets longer the better you do. Usually as a kid, I would just go to the practice area and lead all the ducks back to their mom, because I am a kind-hearted man who would never kill anything without reason. Moving on, we also have basketball, which works about as well as you'd expect it to. You flick the Wii Remote in front of you, and whether or not the ball actually lands in the hoop is basically up to the RNG at this point. There's also cycling, which is a lot more fun than it sounds. You pump the Wii Remote and nunchuck like you're turning the pedals of a bike. It's pretty fun sightseeing around the island and climbing up the ranks. Oh yeah, did I mention that the entire thing is a race? You start off in last place and try to make it to the end while leading the pack. Grand Prix are especially entertaining for longer sessions, although if you're just looking for a quick fix, single races will do just fine. Last but not least, we have air sports, which actually consists of 3 separate modes: skydiving, island flyover, and dogfight. Skydiving is a fun distraction that I always went to now and again. I always try to reach the ground without interacting with anyone else in the air, which is a lot harder than it sounds. If only social interaction was this easy. Island Tour is so bland, I literally played it once and never again until recording footage for this video. The entire mode consists of flying around the island by tilting the Wii Remote. Apparently they made a 3DS game out of this mode, but I was never really motivated to buy it. Dogfighting is also a thing, but whenever I play this mode, I always think, why aren't I playing something else? It's not bad per se, but I just could never get good at this mode, and I was never really motivated to get better. So yeah, that's basically Wii Sports Resort. I definitely say it was a high point for the Wii Sports series. It had a ton of games for both multiplayer and single player experiences, and overall has some pretty good replay value.
Well, we go from the highs of the Wii Sports series with Resort to the lows of Wii Sports Club, and I'm stuck cleaning up the mess. As Kardino mentioned, Wii Sports Resort introduced new sports. So with the new Wii Sports on a new console, we all expected to triumph the heights of Wii Sports Resort, right? Wrong! So wrong! Wii Sports Club took 100 steps backwards. It's essentially a glorified Wii Sports remake with online capabilities. Wii Sports Club is the same 5 sports from the original. And on that note, I forget, how much did the game cost?
Let's see here. Huh? Seems Nintendo closed the website. Wonder why they did that. Certainly not to sweep the absolute embarrassment that was this game under the rug.
Now, with that being said, there are some great qualities of the game which we will cover, while I also simultaneously rant about the game. Oh, please help me. Let's take them one at a time. Now, with Wii Sports Club, you are allowed to buy sports individually, so I am fairly confident tennis was the sport that sold the most. Why? Well, like on the original Wii Sports, it's a quick-paced game that has rewarding progression in terms of techniques. Now, the controls are more accurate with the inclusion of Wii Motion Plus. However, with that being said, it feels nearly identical to the original. The gamepad really had no functionality with this sport. The only real reason to purchase this is for the ability to play it online, which is frustrating because the original Wii Sports should have had online functionality. This might have been a sport back in the day that had people breaking their TVs with those swing and a miss. Like tennis, the core ideas are still in place. The big change is in the inclusion of the gamepad for the pitcher. You now get a dynamic look at home plate and have more controls for various types of pitches. It gave some depth to the game, sure, but every other aspect of baseball got neutered so much that it didn't really matter. It's pretty much a home run or hope to meet an idiot and drop the ball type of game. Otherwise, it's always out. You would have a better time playing Mario Sluggers. Now, before I rant, I will start off by saying the Wii Pad inclusion in this sport was executed very well. It really made you feel like you're actually golfing with the placement of the Wii Pad being on the ground to simulate the golf ball. It definitely feels more intuitive than the Wii Sport counterpart. Also have to give kudos on the atmosphere of the courses. But to bring Negative Nancy back into the picture, it is still the same core game. The gamepad functionality doesn't completely alter the experience and familiarity that was there with the original. So you know what you're getting with this one, and this would be a hard sell for an individual purchase. Ah, boxing. Nintendo must have done something interesting with this. Right? Right? Darn it, Nintendo. Once again, there are slight quality of life changes with the precision and accuracy of punches, but other than that, it's quite identical to the original. If anything, it feels more slower paced than the original. Who needs this now with arms around? No. I can't look at another sport.
Alright, well that looks like that's it for Wii Sports Club and the Wii Sports series. Although it seems like it definitely turned out like a cash grab by the end, it's obvious that when Nintendo wanted to, they could really create a fun experience. The series may not have had as many games as some of the other series like Mario and Zelda, but the first two games definitely had that Nintendo level of quality. If you've never played these games, I definitely say to go with Resort, since it has the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, and as far as the future of the series, it seems like Nintendo doesn't have any plans to make any new games. The series has seen its rise and fall, but when Nintendo always try new things, like Ring Fit Adventure for example, I can't wait to see what they're ready to try next.
Seriously though, that guy looks like he's gonna come for me in my sleep one night. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video and making it to the end. We really appreciate it. A special thanks to Koolaidmoonwalk for joining me on this video as well. I had a great time making it. Say hi, Kool-Aid.
Hi!
If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe and check out my Twitter, where I'll be posting updates, polls, and more. With that out of the way, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.